So welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. Lisa Chastain, happy to be with Kat Davis. Kat is with a very important organization for this topic, TPCH. Help me, Tucson Pima Collaborative. Okay, I'm just going to call it TPCH. Kat's going to tell us what it stands for and what it does. But welcome. I'm so grateful to have you on the bench with me today. It's so important to hear about TPCH and the important and vital role that they play to us tackling this problem of homelessness. So introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you and why you're here in Tucson and how you got to TPCH.
Yeah, so my name is Kat Davis and I am the lead team manager for the city of Tucson, but the work of my team is supporting TPCH, which is the Tucson Pima Collaboration to End Homelessness.
I'm glad you said it.
A big mouthful, so we can call it TPCH. But yeah, we support the work of TPCH, which is locally our continuum of care.
Right.
So a continuum of care is a coalition of service providers that provide housing services. And so there's specific funding with housing and urban development from the federal government called Continuum of Care funding.
Right.
That funding goes to create supportive housing in our community. And so supportive housing is when there is a rental subsidy for the client plus those supportive services. So not somebody who just kind of needs more affordable option, but somebody who also needs some case management, some other wraparound services to really be able to be stable and to thrive.
So what is...
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue.
So continuums of care exist across the country in every community that receives this continuum of care funding. And what it does is it gives a lot of local control over how that funding is used. It helps us with, it allows us to do funding allocation, monitoring and evaluation of programs, and make a lot of local decisions about what our community needs rather than just HUD or the federal level making those decisions. And so it's a really unique program, and it's kind of the backbone of the homeless response system in our community.
Yeah, and I'm glad you answered that because I get a lot of questions about what is the continuum of care, how does it play strategically in this whole process, but that was a very good, layman's term on how to describe it. So talk a little bit about TCPH and TPCH and what the mission is and what the goal is.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are currently working on our a new 5-year strategic plan. So we're just outlining all of our goals and priorities and all of that. But essentially, TPCH is a coalition of all these homeless providers. They're self-governed, so there's a board and a bunch of committees that focus on different things, and they're the ones who are making the decisions. And so, so I think as a coalition right now, a lot of our goal is kind of sustaining the homeless response system that we have. Since we rely on federal funding, there's a lot of changes happening federally. And so it's how do we make it through and continue serving as many people as we can. Our goal really is to solve homelessness in our community with the resources that we have. But what is interesting is, the funding that we receive for the continuum is really focused on supportive housing, as I said. However, what we've discovered through this process of doing a lot of engagement for our strategic planning, like what does the community need? What are the community priorities? And then within TPCH, the people who are providing those services every day, what are the priorities they see and that they have? And there was a lot of alignment. But many of those goals that we now have are broader than just supportive housing. And it's really shown a need for more broad coordination across the homeless landscape in our community. And so I think we're going to be kind of pivoting a bit over the next 5 years to focus more on, how we can work together with our partners to bring people together, to convene people, to solve these problems. And it's not going to be stuff that we can just solve with our continuum of care funding. It's going to require other funding sources, other partnerships, other areas of expertise to really come together to create solutions together.
So in your opinion, for as long as we have funded supportive housing, has that been effective and successful?
Yeah, so I would say it's changed a lot over the years of kind of what the federal government sees as most necessary and funding. And I think it is really important to fund supportive housing because there's a lot of people who need support and that kind of stabilization to be able to thrive and get back on their feet. And, we've used a housing first model, which is we house someone and then that is the platform on which they receive all these other services. So it's like once they're housed, they can kind of be in a place that's safe, and then all of those services can come to them and they can have their needs met in a way that is impossible when they're on the street. And so I think supportive housing plays a really vital role in addressing homelessness, but it's not only housing. It's not only supportive housing. There's a whole spectrum of housing solutions that all of those things are necessary for our whole system, because people are going to find support and find what they need in kind of different parts of that spectrum.
So what we do here at Gospel Rescue Mission is, treat the root causes of homelessness. Of course, housing is our end goal as well, but have them be stabilized and successful and have them being in successful employment, successful, recovery, so that they can be as successful in their home. Kat, that we don't take any federal funding, that we are privately funded, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't and have to work together.
Right,
because we're all in this together. I think a lot of the disappointment that I have had in some of the conversations throughout the community is the conversation gets so skewed about funding, and we really don't talk about the people that are suffering on the streets. And I know that's what the services are there for, but there's been, and probably because there is a shift like you talked about, but so many of the providers that are HUD funded or other, SAMHSA, whatever the funding is, HHS, that they are in this transition period right now. Obviously, with every new administration becomes a new initiative, right? So what are you seeing now coming down the pike as far as funding for the homeless and the unhoused and getting better treatment, mental health, all those things? Are you getting an insight a little bit of what's coming down and how the funding will be shifted in those areas?
Yeah, so, we don't know a whole lot yet. It's just kind of hearsay at this point, honestly. We're waiting for a new notice of funding opportunity for continuum of care funding to drop, and we're expecting that to happen kind of any day now. Now that the federal government shut down, it will probably be, once they open.
It's delayed again.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so, in the past, transitional housing was an important part of supportive housing. And then that really changed, and they kind of quit funding that and started funding more rapid rehousing. That happened around 2008 with when the recession was hitting, and it was a lot of people who were working, who maybe lost their jobs or were struggling to find work, but were educated, and they were experiencing first-time homelessness. And rapid rehousing is a 2-year, time-bound version of supportive housing. And so they thought this is what these folks need to really address their homelessness. And unfortunately, I think what we're seeing is a big change, because now a lot of the people that are experiencing homelessness it's not just due to economic depression. It's due to a lot of other issues that are very complex, such as substance use, mental health, the trauma, the things like you talked about. And that's always been a part of the story of homelessness, but I think it's shifted to away from more just economic. And so maybe it's time for transitional housing again, and rapid rehousing is perhaps not serving folks the way it did back in 2008. And so I think that there's some changes like that are happening, where what we're hearing from HUD and other agencies is that they are looking to fund more transitional housing again, which is also, it's a time-bound housing, but it's just a little bit different in its definitions and technicalities. Yeah, they're talking about funding that again, potentially funding outreach for the first time, which is something that's never happened through the continuum of care funding before. And that'd be great because, the challenge with federal funding, there's many, but one of them is that, if you have a program that you wrote a grant for and that program involves, costs for rental subsidies, costs for outreach, costs for food, costs for whatever those things are, then those outreach people are associated with that project. And so then if we're like, well, we have needs over here, we can't just pivot those staff necessarily to go do this other thing. And so if we could have some really system-wide outreach that can help support any project, that would be potentially beneficial for our community, and bringing agencies together to really work together in a coordinated fashion instead of these folks are working with this project, these folks are working over here.
Well, you're speaking my language, because this is usually what I say. I'm just like, we could have never built and created the center of opportunity with public funding anyway, because when funding is tied to program, you're tied to that program, even if it's ineffective, right? In a sense, you're supposed to give the money back if it's not working, but we know that doesn't happen. So literally, we were like, when we first opened, we were changing things up, maybe even daily, for sure weekly. And so the private funds that we experience allows us to adjust the model and adjust the plan for each individual according to what their needs are. So that would be great, if some of the federal funding was more flexible so that you could have the liberty to change things up if they're ineffective. So outreach we know is important. We started, Operation Rescue, which is more of our robust outreach to really meet the people where they're at. We're in acquisition with a downtown intake center. And so we're looking forward to that. But we're glad for the partnership, for us to all go and meet the people right where they are, to get them the help that they need and do the soft introduction to what choices they have, right? Some people maybe are at the place where they can go straight into housing. Some people need recovery, right? Some people need mental health. Some people need employment. It's the whole gamut. But again, it's going to take all of us offering a wide variety of program and services in order to see the reduction in homelessness. I mean, that's the great thing about our community is we have different agencies that provide different services, and there's kind of specializations across different agencies, and so it is this variety. So no one thing is going to work for everyone in our community. It's not a one-size-fits-all problem.
And so it's great to have agencies who provide different types of services to meet different types of needs. And so that's why I think it is so important to work together, because no one agency can do it all. One of the fears I have about some of the changes that may be coming down federally is a really severe reduction in permanent supportive housing. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what that is. But permanent supportive housing is permanent. It's not time-bound, unlike every other type of housing. But it's specifically for people that have a qualifying disability. So it's not generally people who are going to be able to work, who are going to be able to become self-sufficient, who are going to magically be able to afford their own apartment. Many of the people served in permanent supportive housing are also elderly. And so talking about taking that away as part of, what is provided to people, I just have a lot of concern that that's really going to increase the amount of homelessness that we see in our community, because, if you're 70 and disabled, you're not probably going to be able to get a job that's going to afford a $900 apartment or $1,000 apartment. And so, so some, potential new opportunities.
For disabled?
Yep. So PSH, which is permanent supportive housing, you have to have a qualifying disability to go into PSH. Yep.
Okay.
And so rapid rehousing is not that. You don't have to be disabled, but you're only able to stay for 2 years.
Right.
So that's kind of the big difference there. And so as much as it's wonderful to have like new opportunities, perhaps, I'm nervous that that's going to be at the detriment of some of the other programs that we really rely on for the most vulnerable folks in our community. Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is definitely bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, it takes all of us working together to bring the help that Tucsonans really need. And so we appreciate where you're at and you trying to collaborate with other service providers so that, and I think you personally have the desire to collaborate with many different agencies. So I appreciate that about you. Yeah, so Kat, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
We do have one last question, and that is, if you could do one thing that would provide immediate impact on the state of homelessness, what would that be?
I've really been on this bandwagon of homeless prevention. If I could just find $6 million.
Right. $6 million. That's all you need?
That's all. This is the thing. Homelessness in our community is solvable.
Yeah.
It takes more resources than what we have today, but it's not $300 million. It's small. And so it's possible. But yeah, I think prevention is so key. There are so many people right now that are kind of on the brink, and if we could help them with small dollar amounts stabilize and stay in their homes, it will take so much pressure off the homeless response system, and which is important. But also for that individual, it's going to reduce their trauma by preventing homelessness altogether, and keep them in their home with their families, things like that are so important for our community to be able to prosper overall. And so, I think that's the thing I would do immediately is create a prevention fund and really, get that money out into the community to help stabilize folks before they become homeless. So Kat Davis, City of Tucson, TPCH, thanks for being with me today and having a conversation on the bench. Of course. And we'll see you around. All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Welcome back to Conversations on the Bench. The bench is at Gospel Rescue Mission here in Tucson, and we're really happy to be joined by Chris Collins, who's the executive pastor at Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene. Chris, thanks so much for stepping in and joining us.
Yep, honored to be here. It's a little bit of nostalgia for me. I was born and raised here in Tucson, and I used to swim when this was a holodome, not the Gospel Rescue Mission. So this is full circle.
Well, in some ways, you're still swimming here because your church is involved in the work of Gospel Rescue Mission in so many ways. Summarize some of the things that OVCN is doing to support what's going on here.
Yeah, at Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene, we have a tremendous heart for missions and outreach. We think that the church is more than just the building and the walls that kind of define where we gather to worship. The church is taking the gospel and being the hands and feet of Jesus outside the walls of the church, getting off the church property. And so one of the things we do is we try to look at where God is doing a good work and join in. We don't feel like we need to invent ministry. We just need to partner well with those who are already doing it. And so we're passionate about what we call heartbeat ministries, and those are things that affect people in their greatest moment of need. And Gospel Rescue Mission does that work on a regular basis. And so for us, it was an easy partnership as we looked at who's doing a good work to reach those that are hurting in our community. GRM is, and we wanted to be a part of that.
Chris, how does God want us? How do you think God wants us to look at the issue of homelessness, both the individual who is homeless and the issue in large at a macro level?
Yeah, I think those that are homeless are people who are hurting, and there's a reason behind that homelessness. And so I think as a church family, or even as a believer, as a community of faith, we've got to look at people that are in difficult situations and try to figure out what is it that Jesus would have us do? What does the gospel require us to do? What does Scripture tell us we should be doing? And we think Scripture is pretty clear that we need to be helping the least of these, those that are hurting and in difficult situations. It's the church's job. It's not the government's job. It's not necessarily the community's job. It's the church's job to figure out how to lend a hand and how to reach them, provide some hope, some healing, hopefully some restoration, get them back on their feet, moving forward. And so I think the church's response should be, how do we join in the work that is being done to help those that are in that situation so that they can overcome it and ultimately find their way to healing.
I think every issue in our culture, in our society, sooner or later has a spiritual root. What do you think the spiritual roots of homelessness are? You kind of touched on it, but maybe take that another step.
Yeah. I think you said it well. One of the things we talk about a lot with our church family is that everything in this life is a spiritual issue. And homelessness and people who find themselves in a difficult situation, some of that is a byproduct of poor choices. Some of that is a byproduct of their circumstance and maybe their upbringing. Some of it is generational. So I think there's lots of reasons that contribute to that. But no matter what has put them in that situation, the recovery without faith, I think, is lacking a little bit. I think the recovery from homelessness or from that difficult situation, because it's really a spiritual issue, because everything in life is a spiritual issue, there's got to be a faith or spiritual component to the recovery. And I think that's what separates Gospel Rescue Missions from so many other organizations that try to make a difference for people in that situation.
The Bible clearly tells us that we can't earn our salvation. That's something that's offered to us by the grace of God. But the book of James clearly tells us that faith without works is dead. So what's the balance between those two things, and why is it so important that God's people be involved in works as a result of their faith?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that heart change commitment, that heart level change that happens when you say yes to Jesus Christ. Scripture tells us it's the love of Christ that compels us, right? And so if you've made a decision to take up Jesus on his offer of forgiveness, if you are somebody who has been saved and you've had a heart level change, and that heart level change doesn't compel you then to act in the world in which we live on behalf of the kingdom, then I would just be challenging the level of your commitment, saying, hey, if God hasn't captured your heart fully, that's probably one of the reasons why you feel maybe reluctant to step into helping with people's needs or to step into areas of ministry or to serve in the church or serve in the community. But man, if you've said yes to Jesus and he's captivated your heart, the result of that is you have to act. You have to do something. And so maybe it would be in this way. One of my favorite preachers I was listening to the other day on a podcast, and he was encouraging his church in an area that they were going to be stepping into, reaching into some of the schools, and he made a really unique call to action, and he kind of said, hey, the church in our day and age, we really need to go pick a fight. And I was thinking about that as I was coming into this conversation, and I wondered, for the faith community or even for the individual that might watch this, I wonder if maybe we'd pick a spiritual fight in the area of homelessness and those that are hurting and need a hand, that we would rush into that fight and see what we could do for the kingdom.
The Bible clearly tells us to put on spiritual armor. You may have said this in one of your sermons, that of all the pieces of the armor, almost all of them are defensive.
That's right.
But we do have a spear or a sword,
and
it's the sword of faith. So the government takes one approach to homelessness. It's not necessarily ubiquitous, but it's quite different from like a Gospel Rescue Missions approach. So how do we pick up the sword, Chris, and fight, but fight in a godly manner?
Sure.
Without losing our minds over something.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting. I think government approach takes biblical principles and tries to apply them without giving credit for them. And I think that makes it very difficult then to kind of execute whatever it is you're trying to do. I think culture in general does a great job of stealing biblical principle and trying to call them by something else. And I think what Gospel Rescue Mission does is say, no, this is the biblical principle. This is the call of the church. This is the call of the believer and the faith community to help people that are in homelessness and in difficult situations. And we're going to call it that. And we're going to provide faith as a component of that recovery and the source and purpose for why we're doing it to begin with. That is our motivation, right? And so I think that if your motivation is rooted and grounded in that spiritual call to act and to respond and not sit on the sideline, I think that ends up being rewarded through the Spirit of God as you interact in those spaces and try to do things that make a kingdom difference and a kingdom impact. But sitting on the sidelines, especially in our culture and our day right now, is exactly opposite of what we should be doing. There's a wrestling that's happening right now in our culture and in our nation for the heart of who we are. And it's time that believers, Christians, churches, faith communities step back up and say, no, we're actually going to take ground for the kingdom in this area, but we're going to do it because we're compelled by the love of Christ to get in and make a difference. And so I think some of it's motivation. I think some of it's just willingness to step out in faith and recognize that, we may get pushed back. But we're going to respond the same way we always would, with biblical principle, biblical foundation for everything we're doing, that this is what God has called us to, so we're going to act.
What are just some of the bottom line benefits to a believer for serving and being involved in God's work? What should we expect to get out of it?
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. Pastor David Hillis, who is our missions and evangelism pastor, organizes our missions and outreach effort at OVCN for our community, both locally and globally. That what ends up happening 100% of the time is the individual that signs up to serve on mission for the church ends up being blessed way more than the person on the receiving end of that work. It is just this spiritual phenomenon that happens, and I think that's because there's a biblical principle there, that we are called to take care of the least of these. We are called to take the gospel. We are called to go and make disciples. We are called to love God, love others, and so all of those things play into that outreach effort. But inevitably, what happens is the heart of the believer is changed as they reach out, and so I think that's in part because that's what God's called us to do, and He meets us in that response and in that activity, and just reaffirms in us that God's called us to this. The last portion of Mark is one of my favorite passages of the gospel. It talks about after Jesus had ascended, his disciples went out to do the work of the ministry, but it's really interesting the way that passage is worded. It talks about the disciples went out and did the work of preaching the gospel and were the hands and feet of Jesus, and the Holy Spirit confirmed in them as they went. As they went.
Yeah.
They didn't wait for confirmation. They stepped out in faith, and it was confirmed by the work of the Holy Spirit as they physically went out and presented the gospel and did the work of the kingdom. And I think that's one of the reasons as well why those of us that step out in these ways are always rewarded, seems far more than those that receive the help.
In your career in ministry, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and now at a church, you've seen countless cases of individuals who've had their lives redeemed and restored and renewed. So you know the impact on the individual. But Chris, what happens to the community around that individual, whether it's your church body or the community of Tucson? What is the ripple effect when one life is saved and turned around?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we get back to the importance of the faith-based component of what we're doing here at Gospel Rescue Mission, because that ripple effect then becomes, you may not be able to present the gospel, but you can tell your story, right? It's one of the things we encourage our people at our church is to tell your Jesus story. If you don't feel like you know how to present the gospel well, or you feel like you're going to set back thousands of years of church progress because you mess up something in your presentation of the gospel, then just tell your Jesus story. And I think getting back to having that faith component be a part of the recovery, be a part of the process, means that when people tell their redemption story, it must include their encounter with God.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference. Otherwise, it's just kind of self-help, and it's the community did this and this person helped me do that. But when somebody's life has been changed and it's restored and it's redeemed, it's because of the work of Christ in them. And that's the story that gets told, and that's the ripple effect that has kingdom impact. It's not even so much that they got out of poverty, they got out of homelessness, and they got into shelter.
Yeah.
That really is the result of the interchange and this reliance on a relationship with God and their faith. And that story is what makes a difference when they share what God's done.
Right. We got just a couple minutes left, but you've got a vital kids ministry at your church, and we have about 40 or 50 kids on our campus here. So how important is it to reach young kids with the gospel of Christ and helping break generational cycles or just change a life early for the long-term effects?
Yeah, I mean, this is all about legacy, right? We are leaving a legacy no matter what we're doing. So the question becomes, what is the legacy that we're leaving? There is plenty of scriptural evidence and reference to this generational blessing and curse that you're talking about, that these things are passed on from generation to generation. And if we can reach one person in the next generation and break that cycle, we're back to that ripple effect, right? Not only then have we stopped the cycle of poverty or homelessness, we've actually reversed it, and we've stopped that, and now we've created another ripple effect of hope and life change and prosperity and whatever that might look like in people's lives. And so that's something for us to remember as those of us that support Gospel Rescue Mission. It's stopping a cycle, but it's also starting another one. And if we can do that in the next generation, then ultimately I think we can make a difference for the community.
Final question is, if you could do one thing that would have an immediate impact on the state of homelessness, what would it be?
I would come here and I would serve in some capacity so that I could get on the front lines and see what's happening. This is that stepping out that you're talking about. We did this as a family a few years ago when our church started our partnership with Gospel Rescue Mission as we serve here weekly. Our family came because we wanted our kids who live with most everything they need and a lot of what they want. And we brought them here so that as a family we could see and experience what God was doing here and realize that there's a need that we can meet. There's a need that we can step up and help with. And so that would be my encouragement, would be if you're local here, come be a part of Gospel Rescue Mission. Just commit to serving one time. See what God would do with it. Yeah. And if you're not local here, whether that would be a gift to the work of Gospel Rescue Mission or it would be finding an organization locally wherever you're at that's doing this work, serve one time. Don't commit to anything else. Serve one time. Go and see what happens. And if God stirs and compels your heart, then come again. Yeah. If He doesn't, I'd be highly doubtful that would be the case. Right. But I think serving one time and stepping into it would be an incredible way. And then I think just another way is on the giving. You know, we have a saying within our church family that I brought from FCA, and that is that the gospel is free, but ministry costs money.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
And there's just a lot of truth to that. There's resources that are necessary in order for the work of the ministry to both start and to continue. Yeah. And that first initial outreach with somebody who's in homelessness or in a poverty situation, they have a very specific felt need that needs to be met. And that needs to be met with something physical. Yeah. And so giving of your resources would be a way to release some of that blessing for the work that God's doing here.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we can't let you go without thanking you and your church for the substantial financial investment that you guys have made in the work of Gospel Rescue Mission. You send volunteers down here, you do so many things. But over the 16 years that your church has been involved with Gospel Rescue Mission, your congregation has invested over $250,000 in what's going on here. Yeah. And that money is an expression of faith, but it's changed lives here. So on behalf of all of us, all the guests and the residents and the staff, we just really thank you from the bottom of our heart. And would you, when you have a chance, please express our deep thanks to your congregation. They are life difference makers, and we're deeply grateful.
We will. We appreciate that. We tell our people all the time, there's not an organization in our community doing a better work for our community than Gospel Rescue Mission, and that's why we support it. That's why we pray for it, and we'll continue to be partners with you until we solve this issue.
Thank you, Lord. Yeah. Chris Collins, the executive pastor at Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Well, welcome back. Here we are at Gospel Rescue Mission, hour 22 of conversation on a bench. And the wind is blowing pretty good, actually, really. So, hey, welcome back. Thank you for hanging with us. I'm sure we've had some troopers on 22 hours. I want to believe that there are folks out there, Gospel Rescue Mission fans, that have been on with the entire marathon. Appreciate you. I know the crowd is picking up now. And so we have two dear friends of Gospel Rescue Mission on the bench with us right now. We have Brooke and Lauren, who are both in management with our partnership with El Rio Healthcare, which is right on our campus. The main first big partnership we opened up when we moved on the campus back in 2019. Welcome, Brooke. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time. I know you guys are extremely busy over there across the street. Take a quick minute, introduce yourselves, your full name, your title there at El Rio.
Okay. My name is Brooke Casebolt. I'm the health center manager specifically for medical at the Center of Opportunity, El Rio. I'm a nurse, and so have been blessed to be with El Rio for almost 5 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. Lauren.
My name is Lauren McCullough. I am the Dental Associate Operations Manager for both this clinic and also partially at Cherry Bell. And I have been with the team I think I've just hit a month. So I'm very, very new to El Rio. And my background has been public health and always working with low-income populations and
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
It's only fitting to have representation from El Rio here on Conversation on the Bench, because there's just so much to talk about with what that means to having you as a partnership on the grounds of Gospel Rescue Mission. You have your own building. We're going to talk about, it's not open just to our guests, but it's open to the community as well. So back in 2019, when Gospel Rescue Mission opened up on the old former Holiday Inn Holidome, we got on campus, and immediately the Lopez Foundation started construction on 7 buildings simultaneously. So dirt was flying every which direction you could possibly imagine, and their number one goal was to get El Rio healthcare services done first because of what the partnership meant to our guests there on the campus. So tell us a little bit about, one of you, whichever one goes first, you can follow up. Tell us a little bit about the services that take place at El Rio here on our campus at GRM, what you're providing, what your goals, and what that looks like.
I can start. So for medical, one of the key goals is ensuring that patients get the full array of services, because if we can get them there and get them the medical care that they need all at once, we have much better chance of giving follow-up. We have primarily adult family practice, and so we do see a few kids, but the majority of the patients that we see are adults. We all, from diabetes management, any chronic disease management, just for your annual physical, just to make sure everything's looking and going okay. We can do that all within our health center. And so we have lab, we have radiology, we have 5 patient rooms and a procedure room as well, if any small procedure needs to be completed.
Chronic diseases, but that's awesome. I know we always want to send our new guests that come in on a day, we want them to get over to El Rio as quick as possible to get blood work done. And
Yep.
you know, I have heard through conversations throughout the years that because of getting blood work, we've been able to find and treat things that were going on,
Absolutely.
serious health issues.
Yep.
You know, these are folks that are coming off the street. They've either not had health care or it's been forever or years before they've been to a healthcare provider.
Yeah.
And now they're getting blood work done and they're finding, you know, major situations that we're able to then step in
Yeah.
and get further care for. So that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and to have that follow-up as well.
Yeah.
So one of the key things is having your initial visit or appointment and then being able to follow up with the care that you need, whether it's checking your blood pressure, whether it's follow-up with a specialist, things like that. We're able to help coordinate that.
Amazing. I take a lot, as you know, I'm always over there, hey, it's Bruce again with GRM, you know, to take a tour, and I love giving a tour. It's usually the last place we go, and they're like, what? You provide all of this too?
Yeah.
Okay, so, with the partnership of El Rio, we're not providing it per se, but because of you being on our campus, we're blessed to have those services. Talk about the dental services maybe a little bit, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just spoke to how elusive health can be for when you're living on the street, low income, anyone. It's challenging to take care of your health needs. And if that's how medical services go, dental is even that kind of further stretch, hard. So many people struggle with the cost. It is more costly to take care of your mouth if you need, a root canal or crown. These things are expensive. So El Rio really strives to serve everyone, and that includes the folks from Gospel Mission. And so we have our partnerships.
Absolutely.
We have, if we can connect folks to, I'm sure I don't know if you've spoken to the folks at Department of Economic Services, which are next door.
Every day.
And so people can sign up and they get their Medicaid and support, and that can help cover when they have dental emergencies. They can come in, and I don't know how many times in the short time that I've been there, I've seen someone walk in and say, I have tooth pain, it's kept me up all night. Please, can you help? And we're able to, and at no cost to them, which is such a blessing.
Which is the whole purpose of the one-stop shop
exactly
at Gospel Rescue Mission Center of Opportunity, right? That was Lopez Foundation's dream and desire, as well as Lisa and the staff at GRM, is to create that one-stop shop. Because if we didn't have El Rio there, guess what? We got to call a cab. We got to put them on a bus, send them somewhere across town to get that care, right?
Here.
And you know what? There's a possibility they may not make it back.
They
may get sidetracked along the way and stay out on the street.
Yeah.
So another thing I want to point out too is, what's so fabulous about what El Rio does is you all have a foundation.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the foundation.
Well, I'm new, but from my understanding, the foundation, we do a raffle style because there is so much need, but we can pick certain patients through the raffle to try and make it equitable. But the providers come to us. They see a patient with specific needs that, even though we offer a sliding fee scale for if someone doesn't qualify for access or the services that they need are not covered under access, it can be really dramatic, like someone who has lost a lot of teeth in the front, and it's a barrier to them being able to get work, smile, feel dignified. And so we draw names 10 times a year. We're able to spring for those more higher cost services for a patient, and it's dramatic. The before and after photos of someone who was really struggling to smile, and then that smile helping them land that job. It's just another step of getting back on their feet, and it's really gratifying work to see.
I use several during the tour. There's things you would hear several times. Our values.
Yes.
Love, grace, dignity, and respect, right? Without those values, we are not who we are. We have a culture, and that culture is to provide as much of a holistic environment as we possibly can, because we're going to treat everybody with love, grace, dignity, and respect, right? We're going to give you all the tools, including the health tools, to take a person from homeless to wholeness.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And your guys' desire, your patience of whether they're coming in there and pulling out their, is the wind getting your hair there,
That's,
Brooke?
I'm sorry. It is.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it too. I
That-
don't feel like I have any hair left. So,
You're sitting in the right position. Mine's not.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're
So,
good.
you know, regardless, El Rio plays a valuable part of that holistic approach of what we provide.
And it aligns with our mission. Do you mind if I read our
Please
mission
do.
statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for you to.
I'm new, so this is why I don't have it memorized yet. But to improve health of the community through comprehensive, accessible, affordable, quality, and compassionate care.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's why our partnership, I mean, obviously works so well for so many reasons, but
Yeah.
it's really in line with the mission of El Rio. We understand that many people who come to us, this is their we're like kind of the last gate to access these services before they just, there's no one else to serve,
Right.
some of the folks that we see
Yeah.
both medically and in the dental world. And so
Yeah.
we understand that, and we just do everything we can
Absolutely.
to capture and serve them. And
Absolutely.
I think that's
And
right
the
in line with you
yeah.
all.
And the great fit too, as well. You're not just serving, our guests that are on our campus, but also you're able to serve, because of where you're located on the campus. You're able to take people from the community can walk up as well. So before we close, I want to ask each of you your own answer. Okay, no collaboration here, even though we love collaboration. So, Lauren, I'll start with you.
Okay.
If you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness and drug addiction, what would that be?
This is my personal, not speaking for El Rio here, but I would decriminalize homelessness. I think that a lot of the energy that we've spent over the last few years at making places more inhospitable and more focus and energy on trying to move people out of certain areas, because that just actually moves them further into communities and neighborhoods, when they were maybe sheltered at a park or in a wash somewhere, and then you break them up from there. Now they're in other places, and there's just more problems that come from that. So I wish we could take some of that energy and funding and redistribute it to the services and the good work like you all are doing, and support more in that way.
Okay, well said. Brooke, so if you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness and drug addiction, what would that be?
I think that it's just being understanding of how complex the situation is and how it can happen to anybody. I'm even speaking personally, have had drug addiction within the family and working through that. And so just not forgetting that everybody needs love, everybody needs kindness, needs to be respected for the state that they're in. And sometimes if you're not ready, you're not ready. But when you are, there are so many services and resources. So just being kind and loving one another, I think that we could do a better job at that. Absolutely.
I like that.
I wanted to also say, El Rio is not just here, but we are all over
Yes.
southern
16
Arizona.
locations.
Right.
We're-
You have 16 locations just in Pima County, or I
Yep,
want to say greater Tucson.
Absolutely.
right?
So we're
Absolutely.
accessible, and I know many patients will go to different health centers depending on where they are, where the location is.
Yeah.
And we also do outreach where we go to shelters, to homeless camps, things like that, where we have providers that go out and seek out patients to care for. So
Well, I know we are big fans. We are big fans of El Rio. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank
being
you.
here, taking time out of your busy morning. Lauren, Brooke,
absolutely.
Thanks for your
El
time.
Rio's
yeah.
finest here. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Absolutely.
Bruce Spikeman, Communications Director here at Gospel Rescue Mission. Thank you for chiming in. Stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick break, commercial, and then we'll be back with another guest. More guests to come here at Conversation on a Bench.
Well, welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. I'm Lisa Chastain. I'm here with the Christy Simone. So Chris, welcome.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. Now, how does it feel when the tables are turned?
It's bizarre. It's happened a couple of times before when on other places I've worked that other people had shows, they brought me on for a discussion. So it's not a first, but it's very rare.
I know. We're gonna see if I can put you in the hot seat. No, that's not what this is about.
You can pummel me if you want. That's how much I love you guys.
So obviously, Chris, you know we're here to talk about the state of homelessness. We're talking to so many people that are stakeholders in the community, those that are service providers, elected officials. You interview a lot of them. So tell us a little bit about you and the podcast and the ventures that you're doing currently.
Well, currently I'm on with our good friends at Live the Dream Media, and after doing radio for about 16 years, I decided in this last January to move it over to a live podcast for 15 hours a week, still 6 to 9 every morning. And we can't find any other person that's crazy enough to do 15 hours of live podcasting in America. But what's been beautiful is we're trending just for our show over 120,000 listens and views every month now.
Good for you.
So I'm humbled that 120,000 something times someone had to press a button to watch or listen to the show. That's very humbling.
Good, getting the word out. So we know that this is a new endeavor for you, so we wish you all the best.
It's going upward and onward. It's been great.
What are you hearing in the community about homelessness? We all know the problems. We all see the people, you know, on the street corners. What are some of the people that you've interviewed that have viable solutions, or what is the conversation?
I have a mildly unique perspective, because in addition to doing a show, writing a column for Inside Tucson Business, there's, as I said it on the air this morning, there's show Chris, and then there's community organizer Chris, right? Because I'm not just a guy complaining about stuff. I've worked with campaigns, candidates, we've defeated bad propositions, I've served on commissions. I mean, I've done every way to interact with government and the political process to try to make it better. So this homeless situation is, of course, just exacerbated so we started this whole journey 17 years ago, Joe and I, when we first started the show, right? And so the homelessness was kind of a little side note in a way. And what happened was, it's probably about right after we kind of started the show, elections started changing who was in seats. And what we noticed was that elected officials had no pride for their community in a way. And at the same time, not having an attitude of serving all of their citizens, right? We noticed that there was a tunnel vision that as long as we do things that impress the people that voted for, who we perceive voted for us.
Right.
Okay? You put the blinders on, and then what happens is you keep asking for more money, and the city of Tucson is the perfect example, right? So before COVID, it was at $1.4 billion. No, 1.3. And then after they got all the fat federal money, it went up to 2.4 billion. And then they had the gall, even after the money was leaving, to do another $2.4 billion budget, and nothing's gotten better. So think about that, 1.3 billion to 2.4 billion in just a couple of years. And the place looks worse, right? They're a housing first in their brain. So they say that. So basically, they're so worried about their housing first model, and you and I have talked about this many times on Wake Up, on the Live the Dream Media Network, always be promoting. But what happens is we always say, and you've said it, you're taking broken people and moving them from a wash to live maybe a week or two in a redone motel. Right? So we're not doing anything to help. See, what I see, the biggest thing I see is ideology and emotion rule the day. Right? Wisdom, accountability in short supply in this situation.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot, and for sure, I agree. Gospel Rescue Mission has always been here to really address the root issues and the root causes of why somebody is homeless to begin with.
Yeah.
And we're a firm believer that, taking people from homeless to wholeness well, there's a lot of steps to wholeness. But man, these people need to be treatment. They need to be, they need to give a program and resources in order for them to be able to be stable enough to live in a home, right?
Right.
And so we know that is the majority of people that are out there in the community, that are out on the streets, are 80% of them that come to us are homeless because of drug addiction, mental health, kind of goes hand in hand. And so without us, more of us, right, more that are doing the hard work, the addiction recovery, the mental health programs, workforce, etc., like we are, I believe, and of course I'm biased,
Sure.
But that's how we end the cycle of homelessness. We end the cycle of poverty in people's lives so that they have a better chance not to return to the streets.
It's amazing how something like it's a concept that you have talked about for years, right? But it has to do with, you used to talk about court-ordered treatment.
Right.
In the old days was very effective.
Yes.
And there's less and less of that going on. We don't want to make them feel bad by doing court-ordered treatment, right? And then it hit me where there's a TPD officer named Jamie Voss, and he came on the show. He's a guy who wrote a very nice email to the mayor and council about what he experiences with homelessness, drug addiction, all of these things. And the thing that really drilled into my head, because you've kind of trained me up to think about certain things, right? He said, we're never giving these poor people a chance to have a clear mind, right? Because if you're so blitzed out on fentanyl, meth, cocaine, whatever your thing you're doing, right? You're never going to know you hit a bottom because you're blitzed out, right? And so the thing that for him that was really disappointing that he saw with CPD, he would arrest somebody, right? Then there's the whole scandal about they know to take the drugs before the cop arrests them, so they take them to the hospital, they take them to the emergency room. No TPD officer that has 35 calls still on their screen can say, I'll wait at UMC for 7 hours.
Right.
And then they leave. But then let's say they do get arrested and they do get processed. What's happening is some judge or they know they're not going to get prosecuted by the county attorney around here, they're back on the streets in 2 days. So Jamie's take is, yes, it's definitely difficult from an accountability legal standpoint because he's arresting them for doing other things that are illegal, not just drug possession, right?
Yep.
But he goes, the sad part about, in his own city, I'm sure the mayor told Chad Kazmar to put him like guarding a library garbage can right now, Oscar Voss. But he's a guy, he's been on the streets for 20 years. Like, this guy is a resource, right? And he said, it's the biggest sin ever that we have a thing where we're interacting with them, right? We're arresting them, and no one in the legal and the municipal world is giving these people a chance to clear their brain. Right? And that's why I know the Crime Free Coalition tried to do that legislation in Phoenix, which was, sad to say, Governor Hobbs vetoed, right? Which was the idea that there's some sort of mandatory incarceration time that they can,
for stability,
right, to clear their heads.
Sure.
And so that's why this is such an uphill battle. Is one, we know that Gospel Rescue Mission has a bad name with local municipalities because you demand sobriety, and that Jesus guy comes up a bunch, right? Right. But at the same time, these people, this is why it keeps going, right?
Yeah.
None of them have a chance to clear their mind to even know they need to take a step back from the edge.
So we know that homelessness is a systemic issue, right? We know that you highlight a lot of the negative, the problems in our city, the problems with our leadership. Let's change the narrative and say, what can we do? What can we do at a city from the highest level? What can we do through law enforcement? What do we do through resources? Just walk me through like an ideal, Chris DeSimone's ideal way out of homelessness.
Air-conditioned tent city outside of the city limits. Nowhere near free buses. As my veterans that have served in the Middle East to say, if an air-conditioned tent was good for me in Qatar or Iraq, it's good enough for someone trying to change their life. And so I need to get them away from their drug dealers, their buddies, and there's all of these Again, I think you're the best of the nonprofits that deal in this situation. That's why I support you guys. But there's all this money getting blown through NGOs to help these people, right? So someone needs to figure out, I'm telling you, and some city's going to make this decision one day. There has to be someone that jumps out, right?
So how do you think that putting somebody in an air-conditioned tent is going to help change their lives?
They need to be access to great programs like you, but nowhere near their buddies or their drug dealers.
So
and they need to be out of the city so the place can clean up. So here's the thing. So TPD just cleaned up around the loop. They arrested 50 people. I'm not going to say anything that early ballots went out yesterday. But what I will tell you is they're coming back. Look at the 100-acre wood, right? They just move them around.
Yeah, so that's why I'm questioning, how that would be different from anything
because
else.
So the transition center thing, right? So I want to think that there's a judge when you get there, if you broke the law, and you have a decision. And when you get your court-ordered treatment is right here at the tent city. Not you get to go someplace. So you either get to go to jail, which could be at the tent city. There could be a jail side and a treatment side.
Hey,
Pick a
sounds
side.
like you're talking about the center of opportunity.
I am, but you said as
Yes.
the municipalities.
Yes.
So okay, so let's do this. I need a center. I need a center of opportunity, really big.
Right.
Right now, one of your problems here, for me, is there's a bus stop. Okay.
Why is that a problem?
Because they can always go back to their old ways. Just hop on it's a hop on, hop off free bus. It's like the Disneyland tram, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
All right.
We know that everybody has free will.
Yeah.
Right. So part of our work here at the mission is certainly to come alongside the decisions that people are making, giving them that stability time where they can make a decision. Right. We're not asking people to come through our doors and make a decision.
Yeah.
There's the stability period where they can have a clear thought. And then what are your goals? And we come alongside their goals.
I love it.
So
I got to get them away from their folks, because the moment they the moment they reunite with their crew, the old crew, it's back to the old problems.
Yeah, so let me talk to you a little bit about this. And this is something that's, in our 10-year plan, but comes up often, is that we're doing the great work here, getting people sober, getting them on successful pathways forward. Then if somebody leaves here, they have to be subsidized still, maybe in their housing, and they're returning back to the toxic environment that they tried to flee from.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think as far as assets in Tucson, and I have been asking around, I asked everybody, providers, any neighborhoods that are sober living, safe neighborhoods, do you know any? Or if you do,
3
do
points.
you think that that's a
3 points?
Yeah, so it's a need, right? So we need maybe subsidized housing that are sober living environments with, aftercare resources still provided to them in a neighborhood that's going to elevate their life that we're trying to support, and that putting them on successful pathways.
See, another dynamic that I don't think you and I have ever talked about, which is a huge challenge in all of this, is Tucson is a region of shrinking wealth. It's not growing. All right, even the RTA plan, which they thought 20 years later we should be at 1.08 billion people, we never got there. All right, so what's happening is, with shrinking wealth in a community, what happens is there's only so much you can squeeze out of that turnip, whether it's in the nonprofit world or the government world, right? And so you can only tax a poor population so much. And so that's going to make this fight even worse.
Certainly.
I mean, the city of Tucson can't find enough money in a $2.4 billion budget to hire cops.
Right. So, all the more reason, that we believe government's not the answer.
That's why I love that you don't take government money.
We don't take a penny of government money. It's supported by, the good folks in our community, which are super compassionate.
Yeah.
And gives us flexibility to really, treat people right where they're at. None of our money is tied to funding or tied to program. And so we know when money is tied to program, that you're stuck in that program, whether it's efficient or not, whether it's effective or not. So the work we do, I think, is extra special,
of course,
because we have the flexibility to really serve people. Chris, I was in a meeting not too long ago with homeless service providers. We were all around a table. And
I can't believe they let you in. I can't believe they let you into that meeting.
Well, I know there's a little strong arming there. For 30 minutes, the conversation went on, and so finally I got the opportunity to talk, and I go, no one has talked about the people that are suffering out on the streets and what we're going to do about it.
Correct.
Every single conversation was around funding. We're getting, we're not getting funded in this area. We're not getting funded in that area. We need more funding in this area. So basically, the message I left with is these providers were going to do whatever the funding told them to do. So there was never a conversation about what does the people need?
Right.
What are the trends that people are suffering from on the streets? So here we have, being that we have our, a private funding, we're able to really, take a deeper look in that and do some data points so that we can be critical of ourselves and our own services so that we can, be better. And you would hope that would be, the leadership in Tucson.
So you've toured a whole bunch of people through the place from other states.
Yes.
Has anyone tried to replicate? I'm sorry, it's in my blood.
No, it's great. This is what a conversation is, right? So yeah, we have had 17 different states, 3 different countries come and get inspiration for the work that we're doing here to do something similar in their cities. So in preparation for that, we do have a whole, business plan model to take this thing national. We have a couple of cities that are trying to raise the money right now to do a center of opportunity in their cities. So those would be kind of our pilot programs.
Beautiful.
So we'll see what happens, but we really appreciate you being with us.
Are there any questions you wanted to ask me that have nothing to do?
There is another question. Are you ready for this question? You might have already kind of a little bit answered it.
Hit me.
But if you could do one thing to make an immediate change in the state of homelessness, what would it be?
I still think it's the idea that I need some sort of mandatory clearing of the head world and sentence. I need the ability for these people to have that chance, that they're dry for, I don't know what the experts tell us on how many days, depending on what you're freaked out on, but nothing we're going to do, no matter even the good work you're going to do, if they're still hazed out on fentanyl or meth, I don't know, and that's why it was so disappointing that bill got vetoed. What was it, 5 days they were talking about on that bill? Mm-hmm. Right? The idea that we couldn't keep someone for 5 days dry from their drugs is really, so that would be, my big picture, of course, is always literacy in the long run.
Absolutely.
You know me, I'm a broken record.
Chris, thank you for joining us today on The Bench. We appreciate you bringing awareness to things throughout Tucson, both good and bad. Appreciate you being with us today.
Appreciate all the work you guys do.
Thanks, Chris.
Keep it up.
Hey, welcome back to Conversation on a Bench right here at GRM, Center of Opportunity. That means Gospel Rescue Mission, right? So we are live on the bench 24 hours. We started at noon and we'll go till noon the next day. And I have a very special guest with us on the bench right now. If you're watching this, I'm sure he looks familiar to all of you. I have Mr. Dan Marys,
Bruce,
the anchor man for Channel 13 at KOLD. Good evening, Dan. How you doing?
Bruce, I'm doing fantastic. We can almost use our slogan for this, live, local, late breaking.
Well,
Does it work?
Well, I wanted to do that, but you just took that away from me.
I stole your line.
And late breaking, right? This is late breaking right here.
Well, so thanks for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Dan. You're a great fan of Gospel Rescue Mission. You give a lot of time and yourself to what we do here. You always come to the Blessings to Go, and you do a Facebook Live with us, and we're very grateful for that, and we appreciate that. You just give, and we appreciate your heart. And you've done a lot of stories on your own time here at the Mission, and you were here at the grand opening for our coffee shop.
Which I cannot wait for the real opening, which is on October 20th.
October 20th.
I will be here.
Opening, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be here live, too, so we'll be live on our morning show. But I thank you for always letting me hang out with you guys. I mean, I love the work you do. I love the positive impact you have on Tucson. And, you know, when anybody asks me, you know, where should I give? I always tell them you guys first, Gospel Rescue Mission, because you just do phenomenal work.
Thank you so much. You know, it's a... You know, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we came back out here, you know, but just to drive on this campus every single day. You know, my wife and I moved here from Indianapolis 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm just celebrating my 3rd anniversary
Wow, it's
here
been that long already?
At GRM, yeah.
Wow.
It flew by. I don't even know where that went. I don't know where it came, and I don't know where it went. But I will tell you, this has been the most I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've got to travel the world, but this has been the most amazing 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
And it's been life-changing. And I'm not going to cry. I did that the last segment. I'm
it's
done.
Okay.
I'm hoping so, because it's hard to get it back. But this has been an amazing ride, and it's an honor. It's a privilege to be here and to do this work and to watching lives transformed every single day. People who come here distressed, hopeless, drug addicted, no hope. Nothing, lost their family, lost their job, lost everything, and watching a 10 to 12 month period of time
turn around,
hope restored, warrants squashed, starting a new life, getting a job, drug free. That's emotional, man. To share that 10 or 12 months with those individuals and see them turn around.
You know, and I get to see that as well when I'm here, and some of the stories I've shared with some of the guests that you have, you know, it is life-changing, and you can just see the pride that they have for themselves and the pride that they have for their fellow guests, the cohesiveness, the camaraderie. It is just phenomenal, and what I love the most too is just how these lives are changed.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you drive around Tucson, obviously we have a homeless problem.
Sure.
It's one of the top stories that we cover on a weekly basis. What's the solution? How are we going to deal with it? How do we deal with it? And, you know, there's been some issues coming up with putting the rocks under the bridges to make people move. And, you know, that's just strictly a Band-Aid. And that's why I refer people to the Gospel Rescue Mission, because they can come here to the Center of Opportunity and literally have their lives 180 degrees in the positive direction within a year.
Absolutely.
And I remember when I was here, this was a couple of years ago when I was here at one of the events, started talking to a guy, and I do remember this, but I had forgot about it. He reminded me, but he goes, I just wanted to say thank you. And I go, for what? And he said, well, about 5 years ago, I was homeless, and I was sitting in front of the Safeway at Broadway and Campbell. You said hi to me, you went in the store, and you brought me back out a sandwich. It was a $3 sandwich, took me 2 minutes, and at the time I just saw a guy who might be hungry, but to have him remember that and then to tell me how much he appreciated it, and it got me to thinking, how easy is it for us to make a difference?
So simple.
Yeah, $3 in 2 minutes, $5 in 10 minutes. I mean, just what you can do with this a little bit, but then how much more you can do with a little more.
Absolutely.
And I think people, if they just would remember this, and when people are kind of sitting, you know, I can be guilty of it where I'm on my phone. I can waste 2 hours on my phone watching YouTube videos, car chases. And I think if people just kind of try to get away from all that and find true meaning, and you can do that here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's why we're a little unique here, Dan, as you know, with what we do here at Gospel Rescue Mission Tucson. You know, we're a collaborative campus. Mm-hmm. We have over 53 collaborative partnerships here on this campus that thrive here every single day. You know, we do what we do, providing the programs, giving them resources to turn their life around. But at the end of the day, you know, we give them the tools to be successful, but they have to do the work, right?
Absolutely. And it's not easy work.
Exactly. You know, we have El Rio on campus. We have Pima Community College. We have Homeless Court here. You know, I sat in Homeless Court one time a few months ago, and I saw the city judge came. I saw 12 warrants and $55,000 of fees and fines wiped out.
Yeah.
You want to see a 6'5", 285-pound man break down into tears.
Yeah.
You tell him his warrant is squashed and his $15,000 worth of fines.
What a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His hope has been restored.
Yes.
Her hope has been restored, right?
Yeah.
So, I know you have other things to share, and you've had some special stories, we were talking about earlier that you've experienced.
This is one thing I want, if people can try to remember. When you're driving downtown, driving any part of Tucson, you're at the stoplight, and you see what appears to be a homeless person. And I make posts about it. We do the stories, and I can see the negative comments. It's almost like some people have lost humanity. That's a person. That's somebody's son, daughter, mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, dear friend. I mean, it's a person. And that kind of hit home for me quite a few years ago. It was back in 2007. There was a woman named Lillian, but her street name, everybody called her Sunshine. And I used to live downtown, right at Redondo Tower at I-10 and Congress. So I rode my bike around downtown, walked around downtown. So I actually got to know quite a few of the people who lived on the streets. Well, Sunshine was one of them. I always would see her at Augusta Park, right around the library. And every time I saw her, we always spoke, always. And she was a ray of sunshine. I guess that's how she got her name. She was always so friendly, smiling. And then a tragedy struck. It was the summer of 2007, I believe, and she was murdered. And she lived behind that beautiful house. It's an old house. It's now a lawyer's firm. And the lawyer who has his offices there let her stay there. And it's because she kind of kept an eye on the place. But I'll tell you what, that one really hit home because I knew her. She had a little chihuahua with her, and she was just so kind. And it really kind of rocked the downtown community because who would do that to her? A guy was eventually arrested and convicted. But it was such a tragic ending to a woman. I think she was in her 60s, 69-ish, and with an old soul but a young soul at the same time. And, I looked forward to talking with her.
Yeah.
And she just had wisdom and knowledge that.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to talk to folks. Everything begins with a conversation.
Yeah.
And you can learn so much about someone. And maybe kind of soften the heart, not have such a hard attitude towards homeless because, what is the statistic? It's over 50% of the people now, they're living paycheck to paycheck and they're 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless. That is, you and I have friends in that situation, family.
100%.
And so I think we really need to remember that, keep the humanity and help.
Absolutely. It seems like we went to bed one night, and we woke up, and here was this crisis, with the pandemic hit, in 20. I remember where I was when things started falling apart. I was at a conference in Irvine, California in February, the end of February going into the 1st of March, and I was watching the news in my hotel there, and I'm like, whoa, what are they putting people on these planes for? What's going on? And now we've been into this, we're out of that, right? But
the lingering effects.
Where do you see, with all the reporting you do, there's so much negative, but where can you remember a shift here in Tucson where this homeless crisis really hit home with you?
Well, I pulled up some stats real quick. Between 2019 and 2020, so this is before the pandemic hit, unsheltered homelessness increased 300% in Pima County. And that was within 1 year. So that was before.
Wow.
And I couldn't find anything more recent than that. But, I would say it was during the pandemic where you saw a major shift, but then even afterwards, the lingering effects are lasting a lot longer than I ever anticipated. I kind of thought, once it's over, life will get back to normal.
Yeah.
But it's been anything but that. And I think it almost changed people's mindset, and I don't know how long it's going to take for us to recover.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating at times because I know a lot of people are just ready to get back to the way it used to be. But it's rough.
I've always wanted to ask this, especially being a reporter. You have to, it seems like we spend a lot of time talking about the negative things that are happening in society.
Yep.
Tell me a couple times where you've been able to just report something that just brought joy to your heart and you couldn't wait to share it in a news cycle?
Well, it is when I'm out here live for Blessings to Go.
Well,
I really do enjoy
okay.
that. That's positive
good.
news. But I think the one that really stands out, I've been to Vietnam 3 times, and I went with a local organization, and we would take Vietnam veterans back to Vietnam. The whole concept was turn Vietnam back into a country, not a war. Well, on one of those trips, we would go to the little markets and everything, and on one of them I found a bunch of dog tags. American GI dog tags, and they were $3 each, and there was around 300 of them. So, and I'm telling the guy, it was his mom's shop. I said, I would like to buy these and bring them back to the United States, because the organization I was with, Tours of Peace, would try to find family members, or if the GI was still alive, reunite them. I told him what I was doing that for. He sold them to me for $1 each. So he knocked off that much money. We bring the dog tags back to Tucson. After about 3 to 4 months, they're cleaned up, they're put into a database. Well, guess what? We found a Marine who lived in Oro Valley. We found his dog tag. And
No
I got to
way.
go to his house with Tours of Peace founder Jess Devaney, used to be a DJ on Kim FM, a former Marine himself, and we got to present the dog tag that he lost in the jungles of Vietnam
Kidding
in his
me.
living room.
Wow.
And all of us were crying. I was trying not to cry because I was shooting video. But, I mean, it was just a phenomenal moment, and he was so moved by it. And he said that he didn't remember exactly how he lost them, but he just he realized one day that his dog tags were gone, and he thinks it might got hooked on a branch or just something, where one of them was gone. Because I think they wore one around the neck and one around the boot, if I remember correctly.
Correct, yeah.
So we only found the one, but he knew that he lost one. So we found it in the market 35, 40 years later and got to give it back to him. That was a really a miraculous moment of my career.
That's an amazing story.
Very much so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, in a world where there's so much negativity,
Yeah.
so much hatred going on, so much division, you know, one thing I feel that I love about being here at Gospel Rescue Mission here in Tucson is I have the ability to come here every single day and make an impact on somebody's life.
Yes.
With just as simple as giving somebody a hug, giving them a smile,
Yep.
saying, you got this, you're going to make it through this,
Yep.
and we're here for you. And, you know, without talking about all the nonsense that's going out on the streets and in the world, but we got to come together. We had city officials here today, and we talked about our collaborative work that we're doing together. We're doing some projects of going into some of the parks and the washes and 100 acres over here.
Yep.
And we're trying to come up with some strategies to make a difference there. And, you know, that really warms my heart that, you know, that we're working together and to making that happen. Like the vehicle that's behind you, Operation Rescue.
Take it out on the streets.
Yeah, we're taking it to the streets.
Yep.
I think there's a song.
There is
named
Taking It
like
to the
that.
Streets.
Taking it to the streets. So, but you know, we're not going to wait for them to come here. We're going to go try to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Right. And give them the opportunity to come here, but they got to want it.
Absolutely.
You know, we have people that come here and start the program, and they're just not ready.
Yep.
And I had Everett here with Wellbeing Institute, who teaches our trauma class. And he said, you know, they're going to leave, they go. They leave, or they come and they go. They come and they go. And the question always is when they leave, do they have one more round in them?
Mm.
And we always pray that when they leave, because they're just not ready,
Yep.
I pray to God they always have one more round in them.
Yes.
Because we're going to love them back. How many ever times it takes, you know? And it's a process, Dan.
Yeah.
Addiction is it's a horrible thing.
And it's only gotten worse when the drugs get more powerful on the streets. I mean, we got fentanyl out
Yeah.
there now, and it is. I feel horrible when I see people where you can just tell that they're zoned out on drugs, and
Yeah.
it's just it's heartbreaking to see it.
Yeah.
And I always think it's like, man, what happened? You know, and I mean, was it a traumatic experience from your childhood? Was it a divorce? Was it the loss of a job? I mean, there's so many factors that play into all this, but gosh, I really hate seeing it. And with the fentanyl out there now, it's scary. And I always pray for him as well when I'm driving by. Always do.
Yeah. Dan, I appreciate what you do every day. You know, we all have a job to do. And I know your heart, is to tell as many good stories as you possibly can. I mean, obviously, there's things that you have to report
Yes.
on because that's your job,
Yeah.
right? And it seems like it's more negative than it is good. But you know, I'm always waiting for that positive story to come out. Dan's got one in there somewhere. He's going to pull it out, right? And so we appreciate what you do. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick before I got one more question to ask you.
Yes.
So tell me, you know, I know you've been here quite a while, but
26 years.
26 years, but
Yeah.
you're a Californian.
I grew up in San Diego till I was 12.
Okay.
And then Pawnee, Oklahoma for junior high and high school. My dad wanted to get us out of the city, and he did. Town with 2 stoplights. So I graduated with 79 classmates. College in Colorado, got my first TV job there. Minnesota, one winter, moved to Arizona.
Ouch.
I was in Yuma for 2.5 years, and now I've been here since June of '99. And this is it, man. I love Tucson. Even if I lost my job tomorrow at KOLD, I would get another job. I wouldn't want to move. I mean, my boys are here, all 3 of my boys, and this is home.
We're going to bleep that last part out. But listen, Joe, you're not going anywhere.
Nope, not going
I don't think we're
anywhere.
going to let that happen. But I just asked you that because some people were like, what's his background? Where's he from? You know,
Yeah.
what's his story? So, Dan, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you one last question.
All right.
If you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness,
One thing.
what would that be?
You know, boy, that is a tough question, Bruce. I don't know if there's a one answer that fits all because there's so many different issues. There's the mental issues, there's the drug
Absolutely,
issues.
yeah.
I guess one thing, if I could just pray it all away. I mean, I know that sounds kind of far-fetched
I
for
like
some,
that.
but, you know, to me, you all are doing God's work here.
Yeah.
And it obviously is working. It works
Yeah.
than a lot of other programs.
Yeah.
And I think it is because it's faith-based. And you can't go wrong when you're faith-based. And I guess the one thing I wish people could accept Christ and then they could move on and use the strength of God
Amen.
and the strength of you all. I mean,
Yeah.
the staff here. And just open their hearts and get well. I don't know
love
if that's
that.
the right answer, but
No one gave that answer today. I love it, and I think that was spot on because at the end of the day, there's power in prayer. Prayer changes things,
amen.
and it can change the world, right?
Yeah.
Dan, I appreciate you being here today. Thank
thank
you, my
you.
friend.
Thanks,
I
Bruce.
appreciate your friendship. We love your friendship and all you do for us here at Gospel Rescue Mission. I know I got to get you out of here because you got another chair.
I got to
that
go
you
do
gotta
the
get
10
in.
o'clock news.
You got to go do the 10 o'clock news. So those of you who are home, I'm not going to be mad at you if you tune out to watch them on the news tonight. I
don't want to take
understand,
away
but-
your viewers.
But come back because we're going to be here for 24 hours, so we're not even halfway through yet. But thank you, everybody listening. We're going to take a short break for our next guest to come on. Conversation on the Bench right here for 24 hours, Gospel Rescue Mission. You just got an interview here with Dan Marys with Channel 13 KOLD. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Good night.
Good morning. I'm Ryan, and joining us on the bench now is Allie, our Director of Program at the Gospel Rescue Mission. Allie, welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. Let's start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do at GRM, and how it impacts homelessness and addiction.
Okay. So my name is Allie Martia, and I am one of the program directors here at Gospel Rescue Mission. I oversee the housing department and the recovery department. And the second part of that question was?
How does what you do affect or impact homelessness and recovery?
So a lot of our guests come in here with some kind of addiction. Not all of them want to go into recovery right away, and that's okay. But they come in with some kind of addiction. And what the cool thing, let me start over, sorry.
You're good.
The amazing thing about what we do is we don't care how long it's been since the last time you used. We don't care what your substance was. We allow you to come in because we don't take insurance money. Insurance money stops you from going in. Let's say if you're a meth addict and you want to address your meth addiction. The insurance, if you're going into a rehab facility, they don't look at that as a necessary rehab stay. Mm-hmm. We all know that meth addiction is a huge issue today, and we don't care. We'll let you come in. We realize that you're that you are trying to fix something that's broken. And we take you in if you've got 2 weeks of sobriety, 3 weeks of sobriety, 2 days of sobriety. We take you in if you want to make the changes. And that's what separates us from one of the things that separates us from other rehab facilities.
Okay. Why are you passionate about this?
Well, I have my own spout with addiction, and I know that it's possible to come out on the other side. Very, very briefly, I'll give you a quick little synopsis, but I was in a very bad car accident when I was 12 years old, and I became addicted to opioids through prescription opioids. And so at 12 years old, I was already addicted to prescription opioids, and that progressed until I was about 28 years old. There's a lot that went on in between those years, but at 28 years old, I cried out to God, and I said, I can't do this anymore. If I can't quit this on my own, please just arrest me. Please just arrest me. And by the grace of God, my God answers prayers, let me tell you that much. My God answers prayers, because the very next day I was surrounded by officers. Best thing that ever happened in my life. Best thing that ever happened in my life. I had that period of forced sobriety, incarcerated, and it was a huge wake-up call.
So you said from 12 to 28.
Yes.
Now, was that whole time prescription?
Oh, no, it progressed, to street drugs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that because at some point your prescription was cut off?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. That was back in the Oxycontin days when they would just pass out Oxycontin like it was candy.
Yeah.
And then one day they're like, oops, that's not so great to do. And they just cut everybody's prescriptions off.
Okay.
And so then, yeah.
So what, you don't have to share if you're not comfortable about the drug, but why was there a transition into street drugs?
I still had the pain, right? I still had a ton of pain. It wasn't being addressed in other ways. Physical therapy wasn't working. And I'd become so dependent on this that I needed something. And after a certain point, it's not just so much about the pain, it's to feel normal, right? And with addiction, there becomes a lot of trauma. I know earlier in the evening, there was discussion of trauma and how you have to get to that root cause. Well, in addiction and out there seeking those drugs, once the painkillers were stopped, that you experience quite a few things, which I'm not going to get into here, but and then those things keep you coming back. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been in the recovery world?
I just celebrated my 7 years on October 5th, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you've been doing sponsoring and running. Tell us a little bit on the personal side of what you're doing outside of GRM in the recovery world.
I'm part of an anonymous fellowship outside of the GRM world. I also found a lot of my recovery in a sober living environment.
Okay.
And my friend and I started a men's sober living home back in 2021.
Okay.
And
So it's safe to say you have kind of a lot of experience on both sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
In this world.
Absolutely.
Have you found in your experience that it is common for a person's drug addiction to stem from injury, prescribed medications, and then being cut off?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
More frequent than
Really?
you'd imagine, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of challenges some of the ideas of a drug addiction.
Right.
These are people that just started partying one day and were lazy or irresponsible, but there is some sort of tie to an actual string of events that take place.
Absolutely. So addiction, there's a biopsychosocial component to addiction, right? So biologically, right, you get addicted physically. Okay, well then that addiction takes you out into a community, so your social situation changes, right? And then there's the psychological change that happens in your brain where you start to feel like you belong or you're not good enough to go anywhere, that you don't belong in certain situations, or that shame that Alyssa was speaking about.
Yeah.
right? That becomes a part of who you are. That's a part that becomes a part of your identity. And then you just feel like remaining in the shadows is the only place for you.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. I don't care how far down you've gone. There's hope, and you can completely transform your life. I'm living proof. I am not going to get into the horrors of my story, but I'm telling you that me today is a complete 180 from where I've been, what I've experienced. And there's hope. And places like this that don't judge you. When you walk through that door, I just want to say, if you haven't done a tour here, I invite anybody to come and just do a tour. Walk through these doors, and you'll experience that love, that acceptance that our guests feel, right? Somebody that feels that shame, that guilt, that burden. They walk through those doors and they're welcomed.
Yeah.
So glad you're here.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Allie. How are you doing? What's your name? Just on a human level, because as was stated before, these people have been passed by. These are the lepers of society.
Yeah.
The homeless people are looked at as the modern day leper.
Yeah.
If you can stop and give them a smile, if you can stop and say, and just say hello, that's something that hasn't been done to them for years.
Yeah.
And it does something internally, right? And it begins to change that social component of their addiction or their trauma, right? They start to feel slowly but surely that they belong.
Elaborate on that some more. How important is the social component to recovery?
It's huge. So I want to talk a little bit about our program here and what we do that's so unique. We have a year-long program at Gospel Rescue Mission. Once you get into the second phase of this, which is called stability, you are required actually to go out and participate in community meetings. 3 meetings a week is what we ask of our guests. And while they're out there, they early on in their recovery process here at Gospel, they are out in the community building those relationships, right? They're building that supportive community, which is crucial for long-term recovery. They are meeting with a sponsor. They are getting a home church. They are getting a home group, right? So for those of you that don't know, a home group is just your meeting, right? The meeting that you attend every week faithfully, that's your meeting. Why is that so important? Let's say you're struggling and you're slipping, right? Well, these people that know that you're in this home group are used to seeing you there, right? You don't show up one week. You don't show up the second week. Guess what? You're going to get 3 loving addicts that show up on your doorstep. They're going to be calling you on the phone. They're going to be saying, "What's going on, buddy?
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you haven't been here." And it's that community that's going to save your life.
Yeah.
Recovery is a life or death thing, right? The stuff that's out there on the streets now, it's nothing to play with, and it will kill you, and it'll kill you quick. Yeah. It was mentioned earlier in the evening that everybody has another relapse in them, but we don't know if you have another recovery.
Yeah.
And that statement is ever so true.
Yeah.
Fentanyl's no joke. It's no joke, man.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness, what would it be? But I'll say homelessness and addiction. What would it be?
I would say do what you're the best in the world at doing. We're one body, right? And we all have different parts. And if you can volunteer, man, volunteer to the best of your ability. If you're a donor, give to the best of your ability. If you're a social worker, do it with passion. Do whatever it is that you do the best, because this isn't a one solution fixes all issue. We need people on every single level doing what they can do to save one life, right? Let's try to save one life at a time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really well said. I want to backtrack just a little bit. I was going to end there, but you mentioned the recovery program at Gospel Rescue Mission being a year long.
Yes.
That's just the recovery program
for
a year. Why is that important? Why a year? Why not 30, 60, 90?
So neuroplasticity, right? So it takes about 2 years for your brain to completely remap. New dendritic branches need to be formed without geeking out on it too much. It takes about a year for your brain to stop short-circuiting to I feel happy, I use. I feel sad, I use. It's Wednesday, I use. I'm tired, I use. Because that's what your brain has done for so long. And so giving yourself a year to remap and just do life, right? So I think people don't understand addiction is in every single component of life, right? How do you go to the grocery store if you're not high or drunk? How do you make your bed if you're not high or drunk? How do you cook food if you're not drunk? How do you socialize? Right? That's huge. Most people don't realize. People that have been in addiction for some time, they don't know how to socialize. It's just like they don't know how to do it sober. I mean, look at me right now. So it's difficult. But
so 1 year is really just kind of the rewiring process.
It's rewiring your brain, but it's also teaching you in a safe environment how to live life. How to build healthy relationships. And here we give you the safe space to do it, and give you a safe space to make mistakes, and build that community before you leave here. That's something that I think is unheard of in recovery programs, right? That give you the freedom to walk out the door. We're not a closed campus. You can walk out those doors anytime you want, right? But it's your choice. And that is the autonomy that this program gives you too. So it's a special place to be.
So would you agree then, over the course of that year, you talked about the basic life things that we kind of take for granted. Earlier we mentioned community service, helping out on property, going to classes, all those things. Are all those things a part of the rewiring process? Learning to live again sober, even in the things that we take for granted. Is that part of what I hear you saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
So learning to make your bed, or just those little things in a place, an environment where they're able to start fresh kind of every day. That's amazing. That's amazing. You mentioned 2 years for the healing.
To completely remap, like that's that's what it says. And I don't know that you're ever completely remapped, but that's science says you're ultimately remapped in 2 years.
Okay.
But 12 to 24 months is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Allie, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ryan.
That was very, very, very informative, and I appreciate everything you do here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. I'm here with two of my favorite people in the whole world, Dennis and Mary Barreras, friends of mine for many years. I feel honored to be able to get the opportunity to interview you guys and just have a conversation with you. You know, in my life, you guys have been so instrumental in just supporting me, and you've always been just like a solid rock. And I think you guys are like a power couple, man. So I'm so glad. You know, I invited Dennis and he brought Mary in, so I'm really surprised by that. Dennis, so it's incredible, man. Ever since the days of us, going and doing the children's ministry, Mount Lemon, it's always been fun. Whenever, if Dennis and Mary around, we're gonna have some fun, and so I leaped at opportunity to get to interview you, Dennis. I see you in the hallways, and I've heard you. I know your church and your heart for the homeless, and you used to be an employee when I was first around the mission, and you are there every month faithfully, and so I know your history and all that stuff, but you and I never really got a chance to sit down and go, hey, why Gospel Rescue Mission? Why serve the homeless? Why is your church, in the hood? Because you could have gone anywhere and done ministry. You had the opportunity to do that. So I want to kind of know a little bit about why does Dennis do the things Dennis does?
Well,
tell me about that. I'm gonna put you on the spot, brother, because that's
I appreciate you. We love you, Wes. We love you so much. I knew that after I got born again, I began to understand, Wes, that God has a plan and a purpose for us, and that's what I held. Not only holding on to Jesus, not only holding on to my faith, but following the path that He had for me. And he says, I know the thoughts that I think toward you, he says in the book of Jeremiah. And when he told Jeremiah that, I read that, and I felt like he was speaking to me. I know the plans and the thoughts that I think toward you. And so I finally started getting it, Wes. For a lot of years, I messed up. I was homeless at one time. I was out there an alcoholic. I went through a lot of different things. I was a musician for a lot of years. But sex, drugs, and rock and roll was my lifestyle for a lot of years, trying to live up to that musician kind of thing. But I found out that God gave me a gift to play the drums and to worship the Lord for His glory, you know. And I started understanding that His will and His plan, His purpose is what I wanted to go after. And so when He began to deal with me about how my past He could use for my future and the future of other people. And my past, like I said, I was homeless. I was, at one point, alcoholic, drug addict, all those kind of things. And God began to steer me, if you will, into His plan. And being, wanting to be obedient and in the will of God, I just started listening to Him about where He wanted our church built, what people He wanted me to start reaching out to. And the Gospel Rescue Mission, I put it on the application. I began to work. I worked here for 5 years over in South Tucson, and He had to show me the need to help not just people, but especially people that were living on the street. And I wanted to be used of God. Yeah. And He says, I can use you right there, Dennis. And I just thank the Lord that I can go to so many people that are distraught and needing help, and I can go to them without looking down at them, but respecting them and reaching out to them to try to meet the need that they have through, of course, God's leading and God's provision and God's way of doing things. And I was, a stubborn man for so many years, and God had to break that in me. And working at the Gospel Mission, I thank God because He started showing me that there was more to only being born again. There was serving God and being, giving God the glory for it. And He began to help me with my weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses I found out was the lack of compassion. And He started giving me a heart for the least and the lost, as the scripture says. And He put me in to work at the mission, not only to help them, but to help me. I just thank God for it.
And thanks for sharing that. And you know what's hilarious? It's just, this is the way God works, right? Is, we were talking earlier, I was talking earlier to some other folks, and this topic of compassion has come up so much today, right? And all the interviews that we've done, and so here we are again. You're talking about, God giving you compassion, and me knowing you as long as you've done, as I have, and seeing that's a real thing with you, you know what I mean? And that you'll go wherever, wherever the need is, right? I know you go in the jails, and you know what I mean,
yes.
and the neighborhood that you work in, and then obviously Mary, she's sitting over there all quiet and stuff, but Mary has worked for the mission. She's an employee and been at the Women's Center and now the Center of Opportunity. I get that pleasure to work with her every day.
I needed to have her here with me tonight because without her encouragement and her prayers behind her husband like she does, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that part where you said I was a stubborn man, and she went,
Yes. And I fall back into it sometimes, and he checks me,
Yeah. So talk about that. Like, a lot of us don't realize, like I didn't realize, right, when I first came off the street, like how much of that hope, how much of that power that we carry with us, right? That ability that, when you figure out that, hey, I've been places where nobody else has been, and nobody else understands the population that I work with, it's few and far between, right? And I have experiences that maybe somebody else has, and there's so much power in being able to share that honestly, right? And compassionately.
Yes.
Right? Say, hey, I do understand. Let me tell you about my story, right? Because a lot of times that's the thing that they need to hear, that, hey, I'm not the only person that's struggled with those things. And I'm not the only person, that's made a mess of things. And I'm not the only person that's been homeless. And I'm not the only person.
That's right.
And so, a lot of the work that a lot of the work that we do at Gospel Rescue Mission, we teach classes and we give them the things that they need and the resources and all that kind of stuff. But a big part of what we do is our culture and our community. And how many times that I've sat, even when I was in our program, sat in the smoking patio and talked to another person who's going through the same thing that I'm going through, and that peer support, was like, that's the thing. I need to know that somebody else has felt or experienced that, and as we grow in our knowledge of who God is and who Jesus is, then we recognize, he experienced all of those things, right?
Yes.
But we need to have something more relevant, right? We need to have that person next to us, or that person that has that compassion to say, I understand.
That's right.
I know where you've been, you know what I mean? And you've been that person for me for many years, man. I appreciate you, for me and my family. Both of you, are huge in that. And so, that impact, we just don't know the power that we carry.
Yes.
And speaking the truth, holding people accountable. We talked about compassion today a lot and about love, but we've never, a lot of the conversations that we've had today were you can't just have love, right? You have to have love and you have to have the truth, right?
That's right.
I've heard it explained like, you could be all truth and it's just like a skeleton running down the road, right? It's kind of scary, because there's people that are all truth. They're going to tell you the truth, but they have no compassion.
Yes.
And then there's people that are just all compassion are like jelly, right? There's no bones, right? They're not a whole person. But then you have that person that can weigh both of those things, right? That compassion the truth, right? That's a whole person. And so which is I'm going somewhere with this, Dennis. You know where I'm going, right?
Right.
Because that's your wife, Mary.
Yes.
The person that I know is that she's able to speak the truth, man. And anyone will tell you, anyone that knows Mary loves Mary. They know that Mary loves her, but they all loves them. But they also know that Mary is not going to mince words, right?
Yep.
Right? And I don't mean that in a mean way, man. You have such an amazing way, Mary, of just speaking with people and giving them that dignity and giving them that compassion and let them know that, hey, things are hard, but it's going to be okay,
Well, people can't trust you if you're not honest with them. If you just beat around the bush or you try to make your words sweet, then they're not going to trust you.
Yeah.
And they already have trust issues, the people that comes here. Yeah. And so they need to know that they're loved and that you're going to be truthful with them.
Yes. So simple, right? We think it's so simple, right? I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, but that's not what you need to hear.
There you go.
I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And that's the truth. You need to know the truth, and we know that the truth, we know who the truth is, right? Because the truth isn't a thing, it's a person, right? Yes. And so, and if you want to introduce people to the truth, there's power in that,
Very much so.
And Mary, the way you approach things, it's incredible. And so talk a little bit about homelessness in your own family or addiction or kind of how that.
Well, in my family, I had a brother that was homeless for a while. But my mother was a widow with 8 children. Now, we were never homeless, but there was many times we thought it was going to happen. we were very poor. Sometimes there was only a slice of bread that was for our meal. I'm thankful that my mom was a godly woman and she knew how to pray. But when I come here to work, I look at the people that we serve, and I realize this could be my sister, this could be my mom, or this could be my daughter, or my father, and you just love them. And coming and just getting to love people and show them we're here, we care. We're not just someone, you're not a number to us. We care about you, and we want your life to change. And one thing about homelessness, we don't treat the homeless as homeless. We find what is the root cause for your homelessness, and we treat the cause of the homelessness. And that's why I love working here, because when you treat the issue, the root cause, then healing can take place. And so we see the transformation taking place. So that way they go from from being homeless to wholeness, because we're treating the reasons behind the homelessness. And I love that. I love being a part of that. What a privilege and an honor to be a part of that. I thank the Lord that He trusts us with the people we serve. What an honor to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so whenever I'm having a hard day, I just go and sit with Mary for a few minutes, and she reminds me how awesome it is that I get to do the things that I get to do, you know, and no matter how hard it is, right? And so, incredible.
The accountability is a huge thing that the gospel mission can bring to people that come here. Accountability. I was looking at somebody had a T-shirt on with it said accountability. Tonight on the way over here, I saw this person wearing the shirt, and I never realized that it says account and ability. I never looked at it that way, and I got sort of a revelation, if you will, of the account being maybe their life, but ability coming into their life when they allow themselves, or we allow ourselves to sit under somebody else's teaching, or sit under people that are wanting to care for us. That accountability is huge that the mission offers so many people. It works. It works. It's wonderful.
And I think that, you know, the desperate state of the folks that we serve, and, you know, it draws a certain folks to come and you know, participate, whether it's through volunteering or through our partners or staff. You know, it takes a really special kind of person to be able to, you know, to be able to step into that role of compassion and understanding, you know, and I can think of a lot of folks that are employees that have had family members in addiction, myself included, homelessness, you know, and how many over the years, how many pastors and folks that I know, you know, called me and said, man, we're having trouble, you know, our kids, our children, you know, it's like, it's not, you know, addiction and homelessness and all those things that bring those things about are, you know, none of us, you know, like you said, we're very close to being homeless, even though we always had a house, right? And so, you know, and so it's not like it doesn't touch all of us, right? And then, you know, and then we live in a community where we see like things are kind of tough out there, you know, and you know, some of the things fentanyl and some of the things carfentanil and the things that have come down the pike the last few years, you know, are really, it's almost like, wow, I just, you know, the enemies at work, but we know, and you know, and I know that compassion and that love and that accountability and those things that we encourage people to participate in, right? And then actually being physically giving the resources and things that people need. You know, the thing that Gospel Rescue Mission does so well is recognize where there's a need, we meet that need, right? Oh, we need job training. Okay, let's figure that out. And we figure those things out, and we partner with our guests, right, to figure out what you need, right? Let's do what you need, right? And it works. And you and I get the opportunity. You've seen it, Dennis, the opportunity to watch how that just transforms lives, And so it's great that we get the opportunity to have this conversation, on National Homeless Day, and really talk about, you talked about root causes and those things that get.
Yes.
And then over the years, I've worked with folks that just went into the hospital, lost their job, lost their place, apartment. It wasn't addiction. It wasn't any of those things. Just homelessness.
Oh yes.
Right. And addressing, and to have a place that's not. We're not just a recovery program. We take all kinds,
That's
right? And so we have families, and we have, dads with kids, and
so
whatever the
situation
is, right? And so, and to be able to address those things, like one of the things that really warms my heart is our old men's center. We could never take a man and a child.
Yes.
We just didn't have the facility for it. And every time we have a few men that have been in our program and have their kids with them, and every time I see them, I'm just like, I can't believe, like Mary said, I can't believe I get to work here. Yeah.
Yes.
And so.
Recently, Wes, I was ministering on the scripture where Paul the Apostle says that if I don't have love, I'm a clanging cymbal.
Yeah, I'm making a lot of noise.
We're
gonna solve the homeless problem. Yeah, without love though.
Without love.
Yeah, we just give them a house, give them the things.
That's right.
But and I know the things aren't what they need, right? They need the truth. They need compassion. They need guidance. They need support. Right. They need a family, right? They need.
Yes.
Yeah, those are all the things, right, that they really need. And then they do need a bed and a couch and those things that we provide
that
when they
love,
move in.
man.
But the real thing the things that they need, the real things that are the things that aren't necessarily tangible, right?
Yes.
And maybe they're intangible. And being able, and sometimes it's hard to explain that to the person coming in the door, to the people that say, hey, what do you do? It's hard to explain what we do.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this, it's amazing.
Yes.
I can tell you this, it's working,
Yes.
And so
but that
I
love
get excited.
factor, I'm telling you, the mission, loving people into restoration. That that love will do it.
Some people just needs to have someone that can believe in them.
Yeah.
I've had many people ask me, can people really change? Do they really change?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to be able to say, I've seen so many changes. And people that 20 years ago, we see them still doing well and functioning and have a home and have a job, and they become successful. And but someone believed in them.
And not only change coming, but transformation.
So that brings
Powerful
us to another point. So one of the reasons that I asked you to come in, because I remember the first time I heard this guy preach, and I was the homeless guy. I was the guy that had no hope, and I was the guy, and here I am, 20 plus years. Listen, let's not do the math, Dennis.
And you're my supervisor now.
And I have this chief community op, whatever that means, I don't know. But, like, if you'd have told me 20 years ago, Dennis, that I'd be interviewing you, and I've been like, whatever you're smoking, I want some of that, because it would have been really hard for me to believe. But, like you said, God had a plan, right?
Yes.
And so that's incredible. How incredible is it
to see the transformation?
We get to see that.
It's just so wonderful also.
Yeah.
In how God, even like I always say, beyond change, transformation. Because change can change. I always tell people, you can change, but then change back.
Yeah.
But transformation,
you can't change. That's right. There's no going back.
Yes.
There's no going back.
Yes.
And who would want to? Like she said, who would want to, man?
There
Like, my life is pretty good.
Yes.
I mean, it ain't perfect, and I got problems, but man,
and
life is
experiencing things you've never experienced before because of that transformation.
Yeah, and then to be able to share that with others, right? Like that's the bottom thing.
Yes.
So let me ask you guys one question, because we're really short on time, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask you this. But if you could do one thing, and I know you guys are pretty creative, if you could do one thing that would make a really immediate impact on homelessness in Tucson, what would it be? Just one thing.
Well, the mission is doing so many of these things, but I think letting them know they're respected as another human being. I think that's where it needs to start. And like I said earlier, I believe the mission does that. The center of opportunity here at the mission, opportunity to reach out and let people know I'm no better than you, but you are somebody that can be exactly who God created to be.
We have a little love, grace, dignity, and respect. That's that's kind of
There
our
you
culture. That we've really been very careful to protect here.
Yes.
Because we have folks that come in and are really wounded and really hurt, and they need that love and they need that compassion. And they need to know that people care and love him enough to tell them the truth.
Well, when you see somebody donning a sign at the street corner, instead of thinking those thoughts of, get a job, and there were times back in the day, where I didn't have any of that compassion. I'd be, speaking and thinking those things, driving by that person donning a sign, but when we begin to understand that a person created in the image of God, we begin to understand that respect for one another. And I think instead of calling people that homeless person, but that person.
It's just a person.
And that's what the mission is been
meet
very
every person
good about
right
doing.
where they are, right when they come in. Yeah, and so I'm really
Letting
happy.
them know I see you.
Yeah.
You're not invisible to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to take a break, but I just really do appreciate, of course, you guys personally, but then also professionally, the opportunity to work with you guys in so many different ministries and aspects, and you're you pouring into the homeless community, the poor communities in Tucson, man. Like, you guys are heroes in my book. So thank you so much.
We thank you for taking the time with us. We love you.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
Yeah. Thanks.